And what about the expansion of your company? I know I'm kind of segueing here, but I'm kind of, it keeps hitting me. You have 1,800 plus franchises. How much space is left? And is there more availability on the unit side or on the master side? Like where do you see this company going? What's left?
Funny that we're probably one of the I would call us maybe the small to medium size in the industry. So I think there's a lot more room. I know some let's just say unnamed competitors that have 8 and 10,000 unit franchisees and hundreds of master franchises. So sky's the limit. Haven't quite barely scratched the surface.
So Adam, let's talk a little bit about your team. How big is this team here when you're supporting that number of master franchise locations and with that many units? How big is the corporate team, and what are some of the major roles that you guys have?
So there's about roughly 30 of us here at the corporate office, which is kind of a big staff compared to some of my competitors. We're almost at like a 1-to-1 ratio of people at the corporate office to master franchise owners, just below it, maybe like zero point 0.8. The primary functions, right? Obviously, we have our C-suite, myself, the COO, chief strategy officer, that sort of stuff. Marketing, accounting, your traditional roles. But I think our primary focus ends up being in what we call support. We just call it Master City support. And so that's probably one of my largest departments. There's about 8 folks across Master City support. And that's what their job quite literally is anytime there's any issue, whether it be technology or just wanting to understand a process better or needing a visit to help, see something hands-on. That's what our city support team does. For an industry that, that seems simple, like, mop in a bucket and clean the building, and how hard could it be? There are some complexities in it. And so we want to make sure that we have someone there who's able to give as much hand holding as needed until someone's ready to, walk and then run and so on in their business.
Sure. Well, that extra layer of responsibility that you've implemented by awarding master franchises, it's created an incredible opportunity, but what about the responsibility on the franchisor side, on your side, on training and support of the master franchises? What does that look like?
So yeah, we do a lot of training. When someone buys a new master franchise, step one is we call it. We're not very original with our naming convention, so we call it pre-training. And
Okay.
so literally, it's before they actually physically come to our office. There's about a half a dozen sessions they do just remotely with some of our team. Then they have an in-person training at our corporate office, which happens to be in the same building as our South Florida master franchise. So we kind of compare those together. And that's almost 2 weeks. I think it's 9 working days here.
Wow.
And they're learning everything. I mean, we're running sales appointments. They're learning how to do sell the unit franchise, learning the telemarketing, some of the financial, our systems, all that sort of stuff. And then when they get back into their own territory, then we have our franchise development team, which is, again, part of that larger support core. And someone is out in their territory with them about, call it 2-3 weeks after they're in my office. We like to give them like a week to just mentally decompress, because it's drinking from the fire hose, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
But then it's a couple weeks later. One of our field reps is out in the master franchises territory for a week, helping them just, checking in. Let's run some appointments together. How is things going? How are you having any trouble with anything in the system? And for the first year, that every other month, we have a field rep that visits that master franchise. And of course, the entire time, they can call us any day. Everyone has everyone has our cell phone numbers and emails and that sort of stuff. We have a support ticketing system and all the kind of normal stuff. And it doesn't just drop off after that. Year 2, it's usually 3 to 4 visits. And then by year 3, it's, depending on, the need level, then it gets reduced to, 1 or 2 visits. But
Sure.
but it's a ton of in-person support in addition to all the e-learning and Zoom and all that sort of stuff we do nowadays.
Yeah. Who is your ideal master franchise owner?
I think it reminds me of that old African proverb about every day the lion wakes up and he has to run faster than the slowest gazelle. And every day the gazelle wakes up and he has to run faster than the fastest lion. But everybody wakes up and they're running. That person who's extremely driven. This is definitely a hunter mentality franchise, not so much a farmer franchise. This is not, if you build it, they will come. This is someone who wakes up every day and goes like, all right, what else can we get sold today? Who else can we get trained, as part of, our franchisees and get them growing? It's someone who kind of is a self-motivated type person.
Sure, hungry, and obviously,
Yes.
taking the initiative. Or your master franchise design, then it sounds like that they are absolutely in the business. They are running it. It's not manager operated.
We typically want master franchisees to be, owner operators.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely comes probably an investment level where someone could do it, where they're hiring, key people, but you would still need like a regional manager level person to manage the office if someone wanted to buy it as more of an investment. But there is somebody that needs to be there every day.
Yeah, and their biggest traits to being successful is they got to be that hunter, like you said. Sales and marketing is critical for them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
What about what's the investment range for the franchise opportunity?
The master franchise is, call it 250 to 500,000, depending on market size and cost of a particular market. That's all in. And then at the unit franchise level, very low cost. A lot of times the entry level franchises, it's just a few $1,000s down. And then usually the master franchise is financing the balance.
Mm-hmm.
But that can range depending on how much business they want to come initially with their franchise package. So a lot of folks do it and say, I just want to start out part-time and I just want to do this as like a side hustle at the unit franchise level. That's extremely common. Our most common franchise levels sold is someone buying $2-3 grand a month of business, and it's just a side hustle. It's, hey, I want to make a couple extra bucks. My wife and I are looking to put our kid through, private school or whatever. And it scales from there. We definitely have people buying in that say, listen, I need a business that does 20,000, 30,000 a month. And that's available as well. I would say probably, we probably have some unit level franchises. The biggest one off the top of my head that I can think of just right now, she's doing somewhere around $1 million a year in revenue at the unit franchise level. So,
Wow.
even though it's unit franchise, it's big time.
I think some of the people listening to the show, though, most are, they're emerging franchisors looking to just grow their brand. There's going to be some people who are going to say, wow, I didn't think that master franchising was, wasn't even on the table for me. I never even thought about it. So with that said, what's one of the bigger challenges that you face as the franchisor when you have the three levels, the franchisor and the master and the unit level locations?
Yeah, so it's not, it's definitely not perfect, right?
Sure.
There are challenges as well. It's a challenge, but it also makes it so that you have to be laser focused. And that challenge is, in order to enact something at the system wide level, particularly to affect then the unit franchisees, you need to create serious buy-in at the master franchise level. If the master franchise in a particular market doesn't like what initiative we're working on, there's low likelihood that they're going to also pass that along and make sure their units are well trained and doing whatever that initiative is.
Right.
I would say it makes major initiatives move down to a much slower pace, because we have an FAC, we work through our FAC to then, here are the other master franchisees' thoughts and opinions. And it's definitely a little bit more like, maybe some of the lobbying on Capitol Hill, it feels like sometimes, where you're going like,
Of
can we
course.
win this guy over? What does he think? What does she think? But once an initiative is really thought through and ironed out at a level where we feel like we'll get mass buy-in at the master franchise level, I mean, it's very buttoned up. There's not a lot of harebrained ideas that we're able to just throw something at the fence and see what sticks, kind of a thing. It's very much like, okay, we have to really think this through, test it out. We have some markets that are willing to do test trial runs for us, that sort of stuff, so that when an initiative is launched, it's the real deal.
That's really smart. I hope the folks that are listening that are thinking of getting involved in master franchising as out their concept realizes that if they think they have to communicate well as a franchisor, they think that's tough. When you have another level, it puts even a greater emphasis that we avoid, playing the game of telephone, right? Where you have a message, and that by the time it gets down to the unit level, it can be completely diluted. So getting buy-in is critical at the master level, and making sure there's just phenomenal ongoing communication. What are you guys most proud of, Adam? You guys have built an enormous company over, decades now. You're well established.
I would say recently we did an initiative when I was made CEO in 2015. We were somewhere in the neighborhood of, call it 30 million in system wide revenue by the time they were crazy enough to put me in charge. And I will admit that I would say I stumbled my way forward as CEO. I learned how to CEO by being one. Not it was a gift because not a lot of people are given that opportunity. Also, it was, it was baptism by fire. You just get thrown in and you got to figure it out. And we did well. I mean, we grew over probably six years ish from there. We ended up getting to the mid, 60 million in revenue, but it was 6 years and we doubled in size. It was during COVID that kind of what is a leader got defined around here.
Yeah.
And we were proactively, I mean, we had system-wide calls twice a week for months. And it really changed how I think my senior leadership team, how I look at, working with our master franchisees and unit franchisees. At the end of 2020, we were around 60 something million in system-wide revenue. We kind of worked together with our FAC and with our executive team, and we came up with, we called it the $100 million challenge. We had 5 prongs that we were investing back in our master franchisees. We said, you need to hire more salespeople. And if you hire them, we're going to give you royalty rebates. We want you to make sure you're training your salespeople. And if you train them and go through our preferred training program, we're gonna give you rebates on that. And we said, I wanted to grow the entire system to be $100 million system in less than 2 years. So basically, do everything we had done the first 6 years, and do it again, and do it in 24 months. And we did it in 19. It was something where, like, I mean, it was all hands on deck. We were all rowing, all in the same direction. Corporate office, master franchise, unit franchise, everyone was bought in. My personal most impressive accomplishment that we were able to pull off here. And so now, of course, I'm the idiot who publicly, committed to our franchisees at the last conference. I said, we're calling it Vision 2028, and now we're going to triple that within the next 5 years. So we are going to be
nice.
a $300 million revenue system by 2028. You get a little bit of momentum on stuff like that. And it's just about, keeping the wheel rolling. What is it? The flywheel, getting the flywheel going faster and faster and faster. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I think I've learned better how to be a CEO in that span than I did in the first, 3 quarters of my career.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.